Live from New York, this is, oh, wait a minute, wrong thing. Live, more or less, from Las Vegas. This is Good Sports with Mark Anthony. I'm Rick Rosen. Welcome to the show. What's happening, Mark?
You are Rick Rosen, man. Come on. You are the man.
Well,
Getting
at least I'm a
older by
man.
the day here, man. Jesus.
Getting older by the minute. Dude, you know, it's as hard as we try to avoid that, it's a natural process, Mark. Let me see. We're still adjusting the camera. It might be too close here. How about if I sit back? Okay, that's better. Yeah, Mark, thank you. Why, is there a cliff behind me? Or
Yeah.
what do you know that right out the front door, huh? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mark. This is my last day of being 61. Next time I'm 61, well, I don't know. You know, I think we go through life, Mark, thinking, oh yeah, shit, next time I'm 30, next time I'm 20,
Yeah.
you know, and then I haven't hit that point where you make the U-turn and come back. So I'm just enjoying what the heck I have, Mark, which is an enormous amount of good things and love and friendship. And I appreciate all that you do, bud. You're a hell of a friend. So
Thank you.
thanks. I mean, it's like, for me, it's like every day's a birthday, honest to God. You know, I'm happy. I'm content. We're working on some incredibly important things, Mark, much more than I've ever done before in my life. And the safety barriers and the things that get you to work with Dr. Sicking. And when you realize all that Dean has done, what are they looking for on YouTube to go see the explanation? I mean, to watch him make that presentation to the powers that be from boxing and mixed martial arts and the bus stop people and assorted various species that were there. We have this tremendous opportunity to be with Dr. Sicking and see the things that he's done. What's the name of that? What's the YouTube thing? Is anybody looking for? Do we have a link up on our site?
We can. I can put one up. I'll do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. And that's Dr. Dean Sicking, the man who invented the safer barriers for IndyCar racing and now NASCAR and Formula One. Every single track has his soft walls, safer barriers installed all the way around the outsides. They would put them up on the insides too. They're moving towards that. They just don't have enough product.
Well, yeah. You know, I mean, that's the funny thing about it is, you know, okay, they put up the safety barrier. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever, you know, whoever, whatever. Now they're like, why aren't they up? You know, they need to be everywhere.
They don't have any.
Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, 2 years ago, you guys couldn't spell safety barrier. Now you're begging for more of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of safety barriers, Kyle Busch probably set back the stock price on the people to make the safer barriers, simply because he broke his foot and his leg hitting a part of the wall at Daytona during the Xfinity race the day before the Daytona 500, and was out the first 11 races of the regular season. Made this amazing comeback, but he hit the wall that wasn't protected and came back from that. So I think some guys are saying, oh, what the hell do we need that safer barrier for? No, I don't think there's anybody actually doing that, Mark. What a popular item it is, and fundamentally changed racing. Let a guy like Kyle Busch be as much Kyle Busch as he can be. You know, it used to be guys had bigger balls than the car had ability to not hit the wall, and now they've said, okay, even if the car hits the wall, it's not going to kill me. And so I think guys are able to make moves that we would not have seen otherwise, and I think has been a huge factor safety wise for the entire sport of auto racing, no matter which discipline it is, open wheel, NASCAR, drag racing, all those kinds of things. You know, they had to shorten the track for drag racing because guys, it just took too long to slow them down. They didn't have enough room, a quarter mile, and it took better than a mile, like runways for jets, to slow them down. So I think there's some movement to put Dr. Sicking's invention at the end of the, just in case some of these brakes don't work as well as they should be. You know, that's an amazing thing when you think about the dragsters. Getting something to go 350 miles an hour in a quarter mile or under in 1,500 feet now is a hell of an accomplishment. Getting it to slow down To me,
That's a miracle.
once you've gotten there, and we need to get the guy out that's inside there strapped in like he was duct taped to a wall somewhere in some BDSM room or something. And the guy gets out, and he has gone from 0 to 350 miles an hour or thereabouts, back to 0 in seconds, not in minutes, not in hours, that's what you think of plane flight. Okay, we're sitting here on the runway, and we're going to take off, and we're going to go about 350 miles an hour, and we're going to get to where the hell we're going pretty quick, and then we're going to slow down from 350 miles an hour back down to 0 and let everybody off. Okay, in a dragster, that happens in about 15 seconds grand total, from the time the light comes on until the vehicle stops and you can get out. So it's a tremendous thing, and again, that they're going too fast, which is exactly how the safer barrier was invented. I believe IndyCar racing came to Dr. Sicking when he was at University of Nebraska and said, "Hey, we can't make the cars any stronger now. That's it. The guys are still dying inside in that cars, that the monocoque design and the whole shooting match, and we're still killing guys or tearing them up. And what can you do?" And he said, "Let me put my brain to it," and he did that, and it's a very, very, very functional brain. What a tremendous man Dr. Sicking is, and his whole life is dedicated to saving other people's lives, and he saves them anonymously, Mark. And IndyCar put the wall up at Indianapolis, and I believe it was good old Kyle Busch was the first one to try out the damn thing.
Well, of course he was.
So there's a connection there, He tries it out. He first one back in the day, and then comes full circle to where he wins the championship yesterday. And congratulations, Kyle Busch, a proud Las Vegan. Kurt, his brother, who has been a big influence on Kyle. They have not always gotten along. They've had some on-track things that have spilled over, but they're nonetheless brothers, and this is a team victory if ever there was one. Joe Gibbs brings that to NASCAR. I think with Coach Gibbs coming into NASCAR, it really put that team focus where guys maybe had more individualism. And I think you look at the pit stops, Mark, and the crews and how they work out. They are specifically there for one job. It's like the guard doesn't play tackle and the tackle doesn't play tight end, and so the gas man does one thing and the tire changer does one thing and the jack man does one thing, and that's it. And they have this entire team, and I think a lot of that you trace back to when Joe Gibbs decided he wanted to give up football and get into auto racing. A lot of people thought that was a joke, Mark. When he first started, they thought, "What's this guy know about auto racing? He's a football coach." Yeah. We don't have third and long. And sure enough, they have third and long. They have Hail Marys. He's brought a lot of that football mentality over to NASCAR. And the guy that's been the biggest beneficiary of that so far, obviously Jimmy Johnson and the Hendrick Motorsports team bought into that. But you look at a guy like Kyle Busch, who now is and I'll never take that back. He's the Sprint Cup champion, 2015. Jeff Gordon's last go around. Kyle was a little apologetic about having to be the one that kept Jeff Gordon from going out like John Elway, but Kevin Harvick would have won it if Kyle hadn't. Harvick ran second, defended his championship as much as you can. He came within one position on the racetrack of defending his championship. Kevin Harvick's been a hell of a champion. He's been very good. He and Delana and their child, who are all very popular. The kid has his own Facebook page, man, and it's because Dad runs around. It was cool to see Gordon with his two kids. Last chance to have them, and he walked with his girl down during driver intros and did all that, and tried to share with his son, who didn't. He's about 4. He was not all that interested. Daddy, okay, this means we got more time to go to Disney World or something. So, but once again, congratulations to Kyle Busch. He's always been proud to be a Las Vegan, product of Durango High School, as is my daughter-in-law. So I don't know, maybe they shared a class together or something. Kurt and the whole Busch family, and it's a victory. This is the home court for the Bushes. I've got a photo of Kyle out at the bull ring in Victory Circle, and he'd won his 8th main event of the year, and he really got the short end of the stick coming into NASCAR. I don't know if you're aware of that, Mark. Jack Roush had put Kyle on the payroll, and he was going to move up, and I believe he was 16 years old. And somebody somewhere said that's an arbitrary thing, and we're not going to cross that line. And so they outlawed him. They moved it up to 18 when he was 17. He was old enough to make the 16-year-old limit, and they moved it to 18. And so he had to cool his heels, and he had nothing else to do. He's a racer, so he raced everywhere that they would allow him to race. And he kind of like barnstormed that year that he couldn't race for Jack Roush. Got into the trucks, and the rest, as they say, is history. And when it came time to put him in a cup car for the duration, there's always more drivers than there are cars. And he kind of got lost in the shuffle. He went to Hendrick. He was never the main guy. Well, it's hard to say at Joe Gibbs that you're the main guy, but I'll tell you what, for today and then the foreseeable future, Kyle Busch is the main guy. What he did this year, coming back, missing 11 races, being forced to win a race and to make the top 30 in the points. Tough to do after 11 races when everybody else has had 11 to make up that ground on you. And he had to be in the top 30 and had to do this and had to do that, and he did it. And he got on that hot streak during the middle of the, his first race back was Sonoma that he won. And with two broken legs, or at least recuperating from those kind of injuries, the foot and the leg, man, I don't know if there's a track on the circuit that gets any more wear and tear to your feet and your legs than Sonoma. Well, every shift, everything you do is coordinated with your feet and all that. So I know Kyle wasn't comfortable, but he toughed it out, man. And I'll tell you what, that's a changed man from the jerk that Kyle used to always be perceived as being. And he was, he was fiery, and he sounded like a crybaby sometimes. All right, shut up and drive. And I think Joe Gibbs and JD Gibbs have been very, very good for Kyle Busch. I certainly think Samantha and Brexton have been very, very good for Kyle Busch. And at 30 years old, he's an elder statesman now. He's got his championship, and I think it's not going to be the only one he wins. Maybe this is all he needed, and he will surpass old six-time Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy's still a very formidable opponent. I don't think he's done winning titles either. But what a tremendous time! What the talent that is available in auto racing now. Eric Jones won the truck series at 19 years of age, and he's going to move up. Kyle Larson ran right up against that wall, and I mean he's a kid who's going to win some races. You look at this group. Chris Buescher won the truck series. He's the Xfinity series. He's a heck of a driver, and you go on and on and on. These guys have to stay. Tony Stewart's leaving. This next year is going to be his last year, and there's going to be an open seat there. Clint Boyer wrecked out of his last race. He's going to move into Stewart's car after this year, and so there's always this movement, this almost like free agency in the NFL or baseball or whatever, Mark. But there's some huge talent out there just waiting to get a ride, just waiting to get a sponsor. And unfortunately, talent doesn't always win out. Some guys have a relationship with whomever, whether it's Joey Logano and his dad. It's all legitimate and it's all good. But if you bring the money, if you bring the sponsorship, you pretty much have a ride. And then we'll figure out if you can drive the damn thing or not. But we got to pay for it first, and that's kind of the where they're at in NASCAR. Do you like the playoff format, Mark?
Pardon?
Go ahead. Do you like the playoff format that they have going?
Not really. It's auto racing, okay? Just, he who wins the most races wins the championship. I never.
That's why they give points for second place, also, Mark. In case a guy wins the most, but then sucks the other races. Say they have 10 races, and he wins 5, and then sucks in the other 5, and the guy that finishes second in every race wins the championship. That's what Matt Kenseth did. To win his championship, I don't believe Matt Kenseth won a race that entire year. He was much more a model of consistency, and so they said, "Screw this. We're not going to have a champion who didn't win a race." That's just antithema to what we want to promote. And so they came up with the playoff system, and I think it remains a work in progress. But It's like when Mark, you and I were there when Adriano Moraes won his third championship, due mainly to a change in the scoring in the playoffs in how they crowned a champion. He won it the old way and the new way. And I asked him, are you now a fan of the points? No. He was no more a fan, even though it had let him win his third, and he was the first guy to win 3 Pro Bowl rider titles. And it was a playoff thing, and everybody looks, and I think they see the playoffs as a chance to make revenue and to move the sport forward. So you don't like it. Why don't you like it?
It almost reminds me of college football bowl games. You go
40 bowl games.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you are 0-20, but because the AP writers liked you, you're number 1 in the nation. It's like, really?
Yeah.
The best
Ohio
team
State
is the one
really
that has the
team.
most wins, not who gave the best blowjob to the AP reporter. Okay.
Wait a second. Now they have eliminated some of that with this 4-team playoff system, but
so they don't have to swallow anymore. All right.
Listen. They use the old system. Let's vote. Guys vote that have not seen a team play. They vote going on last year's results or whatever. That's how Ohio State maintained their number 1 status this whole year until Michigan State beat them. And then now Sparty's got, okay, we killed the king. How come I'm not the king? They may not make the Final Four to be in the playoffs. And Notre Dame's up there because they're Notre Dame, not because they're good.
Let's stick to NASCAR before we move to college football. What happens in 2 weeks with NASCAR?
Champions Week here in Las Vegas, and this is when, man, if you're a NASCAR fan, and because you can watch the races on TV, not that it's not cool to be there in person, but how many can you afford to go to? So go to the one where you live, and that's all cool, and watch and be a fan. But if you really want to do the full experience and do that once in a lifetime thing, bucket list thing, come to Champions Week here in Las Vegas, because between what happens down on Fremont Street with the red carpet and the guys walking down, all 16 drivers will be there. All 16 chase drivers will be there. You have a chance to meet and do the selfie thing and all that nonsense, and get autographs and meet them and be up close and personal.
They do it,
and they do it, and they like it. They relish it. Yeah,
they will. They'll walk down that red carpet. They will stop, grab your cell phone, and go click, and hand it back to you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
They are so wonderful cool about that. That is one of the coolest things about Champions Week, and with just NASCAR in general, is how they play with the fans. They do it. I love it.
Mark, you brought that up, and I think that's a very good point. If you watch Dale Earnhardt, when we're out here in March and Dale Earnhardt's here, he seems already tired, and I mean, we're only the 3rd or 4th race on the schedule, so it's not like there's it's gotten old already. But you can see Dale Earnhardt, people shove stuff in front of him to sign, and he hardly looks at him, and he'll hand it right back. And it's this kind of deal, and or this kind of deal, whatever it is. And there's very little interaction, and he genuinely does not seem to enjoy that at all. That interaction between him and the fans is not something that I've ever seen really make him smile much, except during Champions Week. And when he was walking down that red carpet, and somebody will have a cutout of him or a poster they made or whatever, and it's hard not to smile. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually comes down there and he'll smile with people, and he does sign autographs, and he will stop and have a word with somebody who's gone way out of their way to show their loyalty to him and all that. So it is cool to see these guys get to do it. Our last time to see Jeff Gordon. If you want to see Jeff Gordon in a NASCAR event, this is it. Champions Week, December 2nd through the 4th here in Las Vegas. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And, go stand on the red carpet there at the Wynn where they have the banquet. What a cool thing that is.
Oh man!
And
now
you see all the guys this tall with their wives and girlfriends that are this tall, and thinking, I bet slow dancing is a very, very popular thing amongst NASCAR drivers.
Well, it's also funny because the one year that I did cover the red carpet, these guys are all cleaned up. They're shaved. They're they're in suit coats, and their wives or girlfriends are just drop dead gorgeous, and you literally need to have the media guy to go, oh, that's what he looks like. Oh, because we're not used to seeing him clean.
Yeah, we're used to seeing him in a helmet in a car.
Yeah,
and at a distance. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really cool thing, and I'm glad it's at the Wynn. And we don't need money grubbers in the deal. So
okay, now
regardless of the new facilities,
yes. Now we do have
do we
to
do college basketball yet and football? And
hold on. If you come out for this event, okay, on the VegasTours.com YouTube site, the most popular videos are the burnout and the holler parade. But the burnout just gets a ton of traffic. And so if you're going to come out to watch them drive down the strip and do the burnouts, get there early and wear a jacket. It's going to get cold.
Get a room at the TI or the Venetian, or maybe the Wynn up top. Don't go over to Encore because you won't see nothing.
Because
when they come down to Spring Mountain in Vegas,
because the NASCAR fans will get there 3 hours early. They will be camped out on that curb with their igloo coolers and their chairs and so yeah, get there early because you want a good spot. It's really fun to watch. It's cool.
That's called the KJ system. so you want to get there early, really frickin' early. So
not that early.
Start heading out about now. Really? I bet she's packed. And ready to go. She's going to cover it this year. Anyhow, Mark, it has been a wonderful season for NASCAR. It started off very, very with that dark cloud of Kyle Busch and his injury, where he hit an unprotected part of the wall at Daytona on the inside and bounced off the safety barrier. Wasn't hurt at all. Once he hit that inside wall head on, and that's a long ways to travel from the outside wall all the way across the infield and the grass and everything, and then hit the unprotected wall. But it's unfortunate that it happened to Kyle. I'm glad he won the championship to kind of make up for that. He took one for the team because it spurred them to want to put the safer barriers everywhere. The only thing they can't do is buy enough. The production facilities, I believe there are 2 of them in America, cannot keep up with demand. And so it's a wonderful thing that saves people's lives, but you have to have them in place before it does that, Mark. Yeah. So couple things, Mark, before we get off into the morass that is college football again. The NHL, for their All-Star game, has gone to a 3-on-3. Now, you're from Minnesota, and you've seen guys out there on the pond, and when kids play, that's what they play, is 3-on-3. If they have a goalie and 2 guys, and the other team has a goalie and 2 guys, and this is actually, they call it 3-on-3. I believe there's going to be 4 of them. They're going to have a wing or a center and 2 wings, and a goalie, and a center and 2 wings and a goalie, and they're going to have this 3-on-3 tournament for the All-Star game. I don't know. I think the score's probably going to be in the 60s. Going to be like your run-of-the-mill basketball game. But anyway, I mean, there's certainly a hell of a lot of ice. Hopefully there's not a lot of icing in that stuff, but 3-on-3 seems to be the way to go. And the NBA is looking at doing something with their All-Star game also, Mark, in that, I mean, there is no defense. It's just that continuous run up the floor and throw a guy an alley-oop or do something or get out of the way. Here comes LeBron or whatever, and it has very little similarity to basketball, other than the fact they're on a basketball court and there are guys in shorts and sleeveless shirts and trying to get a ball in the basket, but it's not a real basketball game. So they're tweaking and doing whatever they can, but the NHL is going to try the 3-on-3 All-Star game, and nobody watched last year. It had terrible viewership on TV. It's hard to follow something that big. Where's the camera? That big. On TV. When you got a football that big, it's easier. When you got a basketball that big, it's easier. When you got a puck that big, and it's harder. And with modern technology and high-def TV and all that, it's available, but I think they probably lost a generation of people that could have been spoon-fed on that and would be used to it. Now they kind of have to get them back into the fold, and I think that's what they've done with their All-Star tournament, and hopefully it's a big success. I like hockey. I don't think we're going to get a team here. I think if we were, the NHL wouldn't have gone way out of their way to say, "Hey, be patient. Don't send out any flyers yet for opening night," because I don't think it's going to happen, Mark. I think they're going to have to do it more than one city at a time. And I think we're going to have this arena that would be a great place for the Wranglers to play or whatever. And they can't afford to turn on the lights in the place without a major league team. So, they should paint it white and give it a trunk and a tail and call it what it is. And I'll be interested to see how that works out without it. They did the "if you build it, they will come," and the NHL said, "No, not so fast there. Maybe not." It's like the sergeant has his troops out there, and the CQ runs up and says, "Hey, listen," he says, "Corporal Jones's mother just died, and you have to break the news to him." And he says, "Okay, everybody's whose mothers are still alive says take one step forward." He says, "You, Jones, not so quick." And it seems to be the same thing that the NHL has told Las Vegas. It's a beautiful place, and we'd love to come there. And
you flat Earth
got his
people.
billions of dollars.
You flat Earth people are just
right off the edge, huh?
Yep.
We talked about college football enough.
You all looked at Henry Ford and said, "That'll never work. Four wheels never work."
I was the one that told the Wright brothers, "Are you out of your frickin' minds? That'll never fly." And anyway, college football, Mark. We're going to have to do a whole series on college football, and one of the things that I believe we're planning on doing is talking to our friend Johnny Avello at the Win.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Win, maybe we'll do that when we go to pick up our credentials there for the Champions Week. Then we can talk to Johnny Avello and see what he thinks about this convoluted. Like I say, if you're going to have the playoffs, have the playoffs.
Yes.
But there's more than 4 deserving teams. There's more than 4 teams that could, under the right circumstances, win a single game for a championship. The fact that they have to win 2 games, okay, that eliminates most of the pretenders. You have to win back-to-back games against top 4 opponents. Good. But Notre Dame's in the hunt for no reason. They lost to Clemson handily. I mean, it wasn't like Clemson had a great deal of trouble with them. You knew Notre Dame had lost that game by the middle of the second quarter. So, and Clemson being number 1, Notre Dame is still in the hunt because they're Notre Dame, not because they're good.
Right.
They are a very good football team, but they're not in the top 4, I don't believe. Iowa is undefeated, but their quality of opponents, and particularly in the Big Ten, problem. Oklahoma's playing well now. And I think the system doesn't account for teams that had a problem, whether it was injuries or newness or whatever it is. And now towards the end of the season, the best college football team may very well not make the playoffs. So they're going to have to expand, Mark, or leave deserving teams out. And they will not have a legitimate champion until all of the legitimate contenders can make the tournament. NASCAR expanded to 16 cars to get everybody that had a legitimate shot, a legitimate claim to maybe being a NASCAR champion. You've done enough, makes the chase. They don't leave anybody out that's got a viable chance. Number 16's really got no shot. But as with this year, okay, something happened. And Kyle Busch wasn't around, and now at the end of the year. So same thing with football. Whether you get a guy hurt in spring training or spring practice or whatever happens, some teams gel towards the end of the year. Those are the teams. Ohio State did it last year. They were down to their 3rd string quarterback. But everybody else had played together so much that they covered. And they played very well as a unit. It almost made it better that they had the injury problem and the loss, or whatever it was that got them there. Whatever motivated them certainly seemed to have worked. So this year, I think we're going to leave out some deserving teams if we only have 4. Mark, if you say Clemson's a given, okay, Alabama, the defending, these guys played in the championship game last year, so that's 2. They're gonna if Alabama wins out, they're in. Clemson and Alabama. So the Big 12, because they don't have a championship game, is going to get left out of the dance again. And you're either going to have Oklahoma or Oklahoma State who play coming up shortly. And one of them is going to emerge with only 1 loss. and they're going to be left out. And either of those teams that beats the other one, I mean, Oklahoma's only loss was to Texas in that idiotic Red River rivalry. They should never have lost to a crappy Texas team, but they did. And if not, they, and maybe they've kind of slipped under the radar, but somebody's going to get left out of the dance that belongs. And I think it's unfortunate. The West Coast gets the short end of the stick there. UCLA looks like a team that could certainly win 2 in a row. They have a very, very good quarterback who happens to be named Josh Rosen. I'm sure. I don't know if I got around his neck of the woods 18, 19 years ago, but I would like to think that there's some family relationship there. But Oregon's playing great now. I mean, they just are riding roughshod over people to get that offense clicking. So you've got some teams, Mark, that I think college football needs to expand and say, okay, let's let the real ones in and figure out how to do it. But yeah, you've got guys voting on the people that qualify that can make the dance that have never seen them play. And that's tough. I mean, college football takes a long time. You can see baseball players and you can see different this and different that because they play baseball more often, and basketball goes, 4 nights a week. When they only play once a week, your options are pretty limited on how much you can watch. And if you're only watching on TV, I mean, how many games can you see in one down south where there's a college every 8 or 10 miles? You can only go to so many games. And so these guys are voting on what they've read and what they know from other people saying, whether it's newspapers or Sports Center or whatever it is, Mark. So I don't think it's totally fair. I don't know if they'll ever find a perfect system, but what they've got going now, much like Obamacare, okay, it was a good thought and it's a good idea, but I don't know how workable it is. We need to go back and tweak all the things that are wrong there and see if we can make this function better. And
Obamacare was all wrong from day one, but okay.
No, I think it was, well, again, Mark, I don't think it's a bad idea to have everybody insured. But how the hell do we do it? It's like, say, sending back the illegal aliens. Okay, that's a hell of an idea. How do you accomplish that? I don't. Maybe Noah's not using the ark anymore. We'll just put them on there by twos.
Out in the Mojave Desert with about 100 empty jets. You fuel them up.
Yeah.
You load them up. Boom. Eisenhower did it. We have done it.
How do we route? Where do we start handing out boarding passes for the go home airlines? I mean, again, we're not going to get into that, but like I say, people come up with these. It's same as wars and stuff like that. People come up with these great ideas, and how do we do it? Oh, wait a minute. Now there's a problem. Anytime I've run companies or when I ran the football league, Mark, the Nevada Youth Football League, I was the commissioner, and people would come and bitch, and I would say, okay, if you're going to come and bitch, then tell me what you say this is a problem. Tell me what the cure is. Tell me what you think we need to do to make that better. Well, you need to do something. Okay, I'm doing something. I'm asking you what the hell you want me to do. So
exactly.
Yeah. And that's where I think they are, Mark, in college football. College basketball does it right. 68 teams. I guarantee you the legitimate national champion is in that group of 68. Do they always win? No, but they had a chance to win, and I think that's a big difference, Mark. And I'm leaving some of these teams out. 40 frickin' Division I bowl games. 80 teams are not worth extra credit, which is what a bowl game is. And coaches love the bowl games. They get a whole extra month of practice with next year's team. The seniors, okay, good. You guys already know what the hell you're doing. Get out of the way. Let the sophomores and juniors and whatever freshmen are around come in and get the reps and get the practice. So what you see is kind of a audition for next year for these teams. And coaches, like I say, they get a whole extra month of practice between the end of the regular season and when their bowl games are. And so the coaches love it. But 40 bowl games, Mark, name them. Go ahead, name a few. When I was a kid, there was the Big Four. There was the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and the Cotton Bowl. That was it. and they were all played on New Year's Day, and you got up early in the morning and you had leftover turkey or whatever it was, and your Christmas candy and all that stuff, and then you watch football the entire day. And the Orange Bowl was the latest of the group, and or the Sugar Bowl sometimes, but you watch all four of them: Cotton Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and the Orange Bowl, kind of in that order, Mark. And then along came the Gator Bowl and the Tangerine Bowl. Those were the two that I remember. And then the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl, and then the Poulan Weed Eater Bowl, and the I've got a name that I can't pronounce bowl. And they started, and everybody wanted to get in on it. And it's crappy football.
Correct.
To rip people off for.
Correct. And I think, we've gone down this road many, many times. I mean, what the Vegas Bowl here was once the Sunshine Tint Company and Storm Door Bowl game.
Pretty much.
We come back to the problem, I think, is in the fact that the NCAA sees this as a ATM machine.
Cash cow.
It's a cash cow.
Absolutely.
So the more bowl games we have, and so you got to have the popular teams play the big bowls because that's what everyone knows, the Notre Dames and all that. Whether or not they have a crappy team, it doesn't matter. We know it's Notre Dame. I'm going to watch it, and that's going to bring in the money. Where this team here has the best record, but it's some town in Nebraska that nobody's heard of. People. Yeah. So it's
they have bowl games in Boise, Idaho, Mark. They have bowl game. Honest to God, it was a good idea when it first started. Notre Dame didn't play in bowls for the longest time because their coach Knute Rockne, and I believe that's the correct pronunciation of his name, Knute Rockne, took the Notre Dame team to the Rose Bowl, and took a month. Instead of having practice at Notre Dame and then letting the guys go to class and then taking off to California, he went to California for a month with the whole team. And I'm pretty sure that was expensive. And I'm pretty sure guys didn't get good grades following that. And so the powers that be at Notre Dame did not let them play in another bowl game. It was like 40 or 50 years before Notre Dame got to play in a bowl game. And it was just before Joe Montana started playing there. And they finally relented and let them play. I think Montana played in only the third or fourth bowl game that Notre Dame had been allowed to play in most of that century. And so it was just they were just begging Notre Dame. You have so many alumni and so many people that associate with themselves with Notre Dame. Even if you didn't go to Notre Dame, you like Notre Dame. If you were Catholic or Irish or drank a beer on St. Patrick's Day or whatever it was, Notre Dame just has that mystique. And maybe we'll blame that on Ronald Reagan, the
there
Dipper. But anyhow, it just kind of exploded, and now, oh God, we've got to win this last game, so we'll be bowl eligible. That makes you 6-6, or 6-5-1, or whatever whatever it is. Has 6 wins in a whole football season does not mean you should get extra dessert. I think if they whittled it down to a reasonable 20 postseason bowl games would be plenty to incorporate every deserving football team for the most part. And, maybe they leave one, put a bowl game somewhere and say, okay, well, this is for the left out of the real fun deal and people that got the short end of the stick bowl or something. And you guys can play on short notice. Get the band back together. We'll all meet on Saturday and we'll go, you got any cheerleaders that aren't home for Christmas, bring them with you. So I don't know what they're doing, but I think 40 bowl games, Mark. There are not 80 good football teams. There are not 80 great football teams, which is what's supposed to happen in a bowl. The undefeated, the one loss, blah, blah, blah. No, it's the 6-6. And who did they lose to? Oh, Podunk State. And Little Sisters of the Poor gave them a hell of a run, but they pulled that one out, So anyway, I'm not a big fan of that many bowl games, Mark. And
no.
You go to the race and sports books, and you look at the sheets, and when they start doing props on the bowl games and all that stuff, you're like, oh my God, that looks like a volume of the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's just the props, So anyhow, moving on, and let's stay in the football mode. You may have seen the passing of the torch, Mark. By the way, yesterday was the day that President John F. Kennedy, 52 years ago, was assassinated. Tomorrow is the day that Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated himself. What goes around comes around. It came around pretty quickly, couple days, and Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald on my 10th birthday, Mark, and I was in my parents' bedroom. My dad was tying my tie. It was a Sunday. My dad was tying my tie to get me ready for church, and we were going to go and then come back and eat, and I was going to open gifts and do all that stuff. And 10 years old, and finally made double digits, and I can remember, I can literally hear my dad saying, "Look," and all I had to do was lift my head up, and you seen Jack Ruby just jam that gun out like that, and you're thinking, I don't think he's punching him, and then chaos broke out, and that was, to me, it was the changing of the guard in America. It really was and that's what they called it. The torch is passed, and that's why the eternal flame burns at John Kennedy's grave. I think we may have seen something similar to that yesterday, Mark. I think the Denver Broncos may have seen the passing of that torch. At least all signs indicate that Peyton Manning may not be able to come back. He's I don't know if he wants to come back and get hurt again, because that's what's going to happen. That offensive line really couldn't stop me and you for the most part, Mark. And sure stuff, they went to they couldn't do much on offense. They went to Chicago, a tough place to lose in late November, and they beat up they beat the Bears, and Brock Osweiler, he of the basketball body, came in and took over and did a heck of a job, and he had the Broncos out to the lead. They never looked back. He kept his poise. He performed about as well as you think somebody can do in their debut in a tough place. With the Broncos coach from last year, John Fox, coaches the Bears, so it wasn't like they were unknown quantities. I don't know if anybody has a bigger advantage than the guy that coached. 90% of that team was John Fox's deal until he left. Till John Elway said, "Thanks, we'll see you later." So much as Tom Brady stepped in for Drew Bledsoe when Bledsoe was hurt, and they haven't looked back, and the Hall of Fame awaits him. I don't know if Brock Osweiler has a spot already dusted off in the Hall of Fame, but this is his opportunity. That's what you need. Some wonderful talent has pined away behind better talent. And you could be the second best player in the league, but if the first best player in the league plays the same position on the same team, you're out of luck. Yeah. And you look at Joe Montana and Steve Young, with the Niners, that happened. Both guys Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and one was sitting behind the other. And so these things have a way of working themselves out. But Peyton Manning, you just don't pick up guys that can protect the Peyton Manning and let him play at a Pro Bowl level off the waiver wire. Ryan Clady, their all-pro tackle, went down, and they've missed him. You just can't put an offensive line together from everybody else's discards. They wouldn't be discards if they could play. So the Broncos have done quite a bit, but Brock Osweiler came in there and really, really showed a lot of people that he's a viable replacement for Peyton Manning. If in fact this is the swan song for Peyton Manning, I think this, if it's not his last year by his choice, it's going to be by somebody else's choice. I don't think the Broncos can afford to pay $18 million to a guy holding a clipboard and watching Brock Osweiler play. So I don't think Peyton Manning wants to go anywhere else. It's either going to be Denver or Indy, and I don't think Indy wants him back. Nobody can afford to pay that much, and I think Peyton's going to go out gracefully and as classily as the rest of his career has been. I think he's going to do it just the same thing with football, and I think he'll be we're not going to do without Peyton Manning. He's going to be in commercials. He's going to be broadcasting. He's going to be doing a lot of things, and it would not surprise me to see him follow John Elway and get into ownership and management and those kind of things. But anyway. Peyton Manning left home. Him, DeMarcus Ware will be back and playing. He just dinged up. Peyton Manning's got some things wrong with him, whether it's the torn plantar fasciitis in his foot and all the other things that he has that that limit his mobility. It's a perfect storm because his offensive line means that you got to be mobile or you're going to get hurt. So he gets hurt and becomes even less mobile. And then the offensive line, now they're taking holding penalties and putting him in a second and 25. Nobody. There aren't no plays in your playbook to do second and 20, second and 25, third and 18, those kind of things that a porous offensive line puts you in. And so it really has been the perfect storm. Peyton Manning's been a hell of a player, great family. It's kind of too bad that Eli's got 2 Super Bowls and Manning's only got 1. But unless the Broncos do something incredibly amazing this second half of the season, he ain't going to get number 2, not as a player anyway. So. And Elway's going to have to wait, and they're going to have to see if Brock Osweiler can step in, or it's going to be, garage sale time. And so anyway, Mark, before we get too far gone, a young man of 91 named Mal Whitfield. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
Mal Whitfield was pretty much another version of Jesse Owens. He was an American Olympian, black man, who won 3 gold medals in the Olympics. He was a Tuskegee Airman and fought in the war and very decorated in the whole shooting match. He passed away this last week. But Mal Whitfield was a middle distance runner. I believe he was the American record holder in the half mile at the time, and now they're down to 800 meters. We just want to pass along our thoughts and prayers to his family, and they don't come along very often, like a guy like Mal Whitfield, three gold medals and return from war. So that's a good thing. What do you think about the Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors now at 15-0? They beat the Nuggets last night, which they have now tied the record for most wins at the start of a season. People are stupidly saying, "Oh, they're gonna get the 72 wins and at least tie the Bulls," and I don't think they've got a shot at doing that. I think it's such a long season, and they play. Mark, we saw half that damn team here with Basketball USA.
We did.
Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Green. I mean, you look. There's a lot of those guys that have played nonstop. Okay. That adds up, and a tweaked ankle here, and a this and that there. I mean, they're doing this. Steve Kerr, their coach, is not even there. Luke Walton, you talk about auditioning good. Even though they're the defending NBA champions, defending world champions, Luke Walton has stepped in, and he's got his team off to 15-0. I'm pretty sure somebody with a crappy basketball team is going to say, "Hey, listen, we got to give this guy a chance." He stepped into a tough situation, and it hasn't screwed him up. And I think for a lot of times, coaches trying to do too much. They screw up the talent that they have. Let them play basketball. Basketball's a simple game. Put the ball in the basket and don't let the other guy do the same thing. And that's pretty much it. And you have the talent. If you don't screw that up, you're gonna go far. And Luke Walton's done a hell of a job. Bill's kids doing him proud, and kind of cool. Steph Curry and his dad, Del Curry, who was a tremendous shooter, and now he's playing for Luke Walton, whose dad, Bill Walton, one of the greatest basketball players to ever play. If his feet had held together, I think he might still have records in the books that would be very, very hard to beat. But it wasn't to be. But I think it's kind of a cool circumstance. And Klay Thompson, his dad Michael Thompson, so there's that second generation, kind of like NASCAR. There's that second generational thing, I think, much more dominant in basketball than it is in football. You get Clay Matthews, and has I think every team had a Matthews on it for a while there. Every team in the NFL had a Browner on it. Your guy Joey at Minnesota was one of like 7 Browners to play in the NFL. But for the most part, I think basketball does kind of lend itself to kids are brought up that way. That's what they play. Have you seen LeBron James's kid play?
Saw him in a video.
Yeah, the acorn didn't fall very far from the tree, and I don't know what his final size is going to be. That's much more up to God than me. But I'm telling you what, if the kid has any size at all, he's already got some mad skills, and he's going to be working on his game. And the bad thing, people think, well, yeah, you're LeBron's kid, you get to do this and do that. LeBron's not around much. He's off making Nike commercials when he's not playing basketball, when he's not playing basketball for USA basketball and the Olympics and all those kinds of things. So I don't know that he's a huge presence on a day-to-day basis, at least for his kids. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I hope I get to watch their transition from youngsters to players, because LeBron was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated in 8th grade, Mark.
Wow.
And they got it right. Well, they got it right. You can see that talent early.
Well, I mean, I forgot who it was. If it was Jordan's kid or somebody like that, but I remember seeing a interview with one of the greats' kids, and they looked at the guy like, he's my dad. He's, to this kid, he's not this god of basketball. He's the guy that I sit across the table and he slaps me when I chew with my mouth open.
Yep. Yeah, he's just dad to me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, Mark, I think it's cool to see these guys and that relationship. One of the neatest things I ever did was interviewed Ryan Couture, and Randy Couture had just finished on MMA Junkie, the show that preceded ours at the Mandalay Bay, and we were about to go on the air, and Randy was getting off and walking out. And I said, "Hey, Ryan's going to be here in a couple minutes. Would you like to do a few minutes with him?" He said, "Man, I don't have very long." He says, "Yeah, but I have never done a radio interview with him." He said, "That might be cool." So I said, "Okay, stick around." So Ryan showed up, and 5 minutes later, we sat down and did an interview with Ryan and Randy. And Ryan brought that to mind, that he's not Randy Couture to me, he's dad. And Mark, that does kind of make you think differently than what you were just thinking just before that moment. You're right. This is this kid's dad. And I was asking Randy about how he felt about Ryan getting in there and knowing the damage and the effort that it takes and the liability that injuries and those things become as you don't nobody's not hurt in MMA. And it then opened my eyes to, hey, what is it like to sit there and watch your dad get pummeled? He got knocked out by Chuck Liddell. He won the first fight with Chuck in one of the greatest trilogies ever in MMA, and then Chuck beat him the next two, and the Iceman, and you talk to Ryan about what's it like to sit there and watch your dad, your hero, lose, and he said, man, it hurt. It was just and you could tell that was not a sports thing. That was a father-son thing. So
yeah. Okay. Final topic.
Okay.
Since we're in UFC, since we're in the UFC, what do you think, Ronda?
Ronda got every combat sport I've ever been in, Mark. They've always had a lucky punch, a lucky this, a lucky that. When you're in there and you're in with a viable opponent, you are prone to getting hit with something you weren't prepared for. That's the sport. I want to do to you what I want to do, and I want to make you not be able to do to me what you want to do. That's how you win. I get to impose my will on you. If I can do it both offensively and defensively, 99.9% of the time I'm going to win. Ronda might have been not training as diligently as she should have or would have liked to, simply because of the opportunity to cash in on her fame when she did. And God bless her. And it comes back to haunt you. Holly Holm had nothing else to do but train for Ronda.
Yeah.
Ronda had not as much time as she should have taken with Holly Holm. It was the perfect storm. Ronda was not prepared for that kick Ronda was not prepared to just get, as Mike Tyson used to say, plans change when you hit somebody. And sure enough, you see there, and you saw that Holly was not intimidated. She was not going to give up her arms to Ronda. She was throwing jabs and getting that arm away. You're not going to take me. You're not going to out judo me. And Holly Holm really left Ronda no alternative but to stand and fight. And God bless her, Ronda did. She tried everything she could think of to do. And Holly, with that kick, that was about as vicious a head kick as I've seen. Women can't hit as the physiology of a fist is that a woman's fist breaks or damages before it can transfer the power of a punch. A man's fist is much stronger, much more capable of taking a punch, absorbing the impact that delivering a punch does to your hands. So women are not near as prone to do the damage with their hands that men are. On the other hand, kicking wise, women don't have all the constraints that men have with their legs, and can throw with considerable force, can throw a kick out there that lands at least as hard as a man's kick does, if not more so, because of their physiology. So what they lose in fist wise, they well make up for with legs. And that's what Ronda caught, man. She caught that baby whack, and now they're saying, oh, it caught her in the throat. It wouldn't have mattered if it caught her in her nipple. That was going to hurt. You know what I mean? That was just a vicious, well-planned, well-timed, well-placed kick. And all hail Holly Holm. I think it's going to be a great rematch. I think Ronda will work with some boxing people. I know from rumors are that a young man like Freddie Roach may have an interest in helping Ronda with her boxing. That being said, it was not boxing that beat Ronda. It was a kick. And maybe we'll have to get Mark Beecher, the hyena, in there and work with Ronda on her kicks. But I think I don't have any question whatsoever, Mark, that there's going to be a rematch.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's going to be highly anticipated. And man, you got to hope that Ronda wins. Because I want to see the third one. I want to see, yeah, those sports books do too, 1-1. And you know, Mark, it hasn't been that long since we were at the Mandalay Bay, and Reed Harris was walking by, and he had the WEC, and we invited him in, and I really had no idea who he was, and he sat there and did the interview with us, and I think George finally sent me a note. He's the CEO of the WEC, and they were just getting bought out by the UFC, and we talked about the little guys and how it's time for Jose Aldo and those guys that fight in this. You know, they're just lighter versions of UFC fighters, and they got assimilated in. And I asked him about the babes, and he was not happy that I'd asked him about women in the combat sports, in particularly mixed martial arts. And I mean, he wasn't so much mad as puckered up that, oh my God, I said the magic words. You're going to allow women in, and you know, that it was really you were the Antichrist if you brought that up at one of the UFC meetings. And sure enough, here they are, and their biggest star is Ronda Rousey. Now, if she wins, it continues. But now they're going to have to make lemonade out of the lemons that they got from Holly Holm, and they're going to have this rematch. And again, I think it's much to the benefit of the sport that Ronda wins. I don't think Holly's as personable. I don't think she's as marketable as Ronda Rousey.
No.
But if they can do this all E. Frazier thing, and you win one and I win one, that third one's going to be a hell of a fight. And you know, it may be a very defining moment in the sport. But you know, you got two pretty good looking women in there slugging each other. That'll draw a crowd in a parking lot at 7-Eleven.
That'll sell.
Much less on pay-per-view and all that. So
all right,
Mark. I guess that's about it, huh?
Yep.
Kobe Bryant's done, man. I told you before we wrap up. I told you,
he's gone.
If he doesn't get to be Kobe anymore, he's not going to play. And I'm almost positive this is Kobe's last go-round. He's not Kobe Bryant anymore. He doesn't have the legs, which is what he shot off of, and he's having to learn a whole new game. And that's easy. That's not even really easy to do when you're in school, when you're junior high or high school or college. It's sure as hell not easy to do in the NBA, and I don't think Kobe needs it. I don't think he needs the money. I don't think I just don't think if he doesn't get to be Kobe anymore, he's going to stick around and play. So you better get a good look at him. Tony Stewart, Kobe Bryant. We're going to miss Jeff Gordon. You want to see him one more time, December 2nd through the 4th here in Las Vegas, Champions Week. And I guess that's about it. MVPs. Mark, great week for Las Vegas before we go. Chris Bryant, National League Rookie of the Year with the Chicago Cubs. Bryce Harper, National League Most Valuable Player with the Washington Nationals. And now Kyle Busch, the NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. So that's been a pretty substantial week for us in Las Vegas, and we congratulate them all, and continued success to all those. For those guys that took second or under, try harder. That's what got these guys there. So, any last parting words, Bud?
Just waiting for the burnout.
All right, I'm going to start.
And National Finals Rodeo.
I'm going to start celebrating for my birthday, and the NFR's coming too.
Yep, Cowboys. So, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to open a beer and start partying for my birthday. Okay. I've got how many hours? Oh yeah, shit. I've got. It was. I was born at 12:13 at night, so I'm looking like we have 12 hours and 3 minutes left here, and then at 12:13 we start counting the next year. So, you gonna come over and have a beer?
Yeah, we're gonna do it tomorrow, aren't we?
I think we should. We're going to do it tomorrow. Yeah. Strip on our future.
Yeah.
We'll see you. Yeah. Treasures, brother. All right, Mark. Thanks all to listening and abiding us. And we're going to see movies. Okay. Let's go now. Can we do the KJ system? Just maybe throw a pitch a tent. I always do that at strip clubs. But I think that's a different tent. All right. Well, for all of us here at Good Sports, we appreciate you listening, and thank you so much for being fans and being friends with us. And I'll have a wonderful, safe, happy Thanksgiving. And we will talk to you next week. For Mark Anthony, I'm Rick Rosen. God bless. Take care.
Bye.